So thank you for having me. Thank you, Katie, for having me here today. My name is Bobby Bench. I'm the founder and CEO of Radius. Probably like some of you all, we are actually a spin out of the government. A little more controversial one recently. We were the team that built the Federal Reserve central bank digital currency with MIT. And I'll get into it a bit, but the main reason there was China was kicking our butt and had over 1,000 engineers from their top universities working on taking over the global monetary system. And myself and about 8 scrappy engineers from MIT decided we were going to compete against them. So let me quickly talk about where technology history and financial history have come together or not come together, and what it means for the next 10 years of economic superiority. Very different than defense superiority, but it all kind of comes together. Semiconductors and systems came out in the 60s and 70s in Silicon Valley and places like MIT and Berkeley. And the good thing was the Treasury Department and the Federal Reserve kept up. When Silicon Valley came out with new mainframes, the Federal Reserve came out with new mainframes, built them usually in northern New Jersey, and made our dollar digital. When systems came out in the late 70s, early 80s, Visa was invented by Dee Hock. And the financial system chose to keep up with the systems coming out of Silicon Valley and in the 128 loop in Boston. As the internet came online in the 90s, a crucial moment happened around 1998 that Mark Andreessen calls the original sin of the internet, which was when Andreessen and the other internet founders in the late 90s went to Visa and MasterCard and JP Morgan Chase and Bank of America and the Federal Reserve and the US Treasury. They said, we have this network that works really well and we want to put money natively on it. They told them the pound sand. And that decision by the financial services industry and the financial part of our government to remove money natively on the internet, despite doing it along every other financial and technology rail previously, has caused a challenge to us right now in 2025. And I'll get to it. So in the internet era, we had entrepreneurs like Peter Thiel and Elon Musk build PayPal. And what they did there was they built a really cool UI on top of the internet, but still had to settle with the Federal Reserve on those servers from the 1970s. At the same time, China was beginning to launch their internet and money revolution, making money native on the Chinese internet. In the 2010s, in the mobile era, we kept improving the top layer of money with Stripe and Venmo, again, making the UI better for developers and applications and mobile applications and iOS applications to enable people to put money on it, but it still settled extremely slowly on those 1970 servers from IBM in northern New Jersey. And very interesting now, with the AI era coming out in the 2020s, the question is, can we continue to rely on those servers in northern New Jersey from the systems era to move dollars, or do we need to start competing? At Radius, one of our theories is that original sin of the internet, of money not settling on the open internet, is a fundamental problem for our country, and it's a fundamental challenge to the US dollar. Money not settling on the open internet means that we created what effectively has become the Silicon Valley economy of AdWords. We all look on our phones, we all look on our screens, and in order to give our data and our eyeballs to Google and Meta, they sell our data and we get free internet services. And because of that, we've never chosen to improve, because Google keeps making money, Meta keeps making money, and our money, the US dollar, continues to lag behind. In the AI era, we need to break that, and this is what we're doing at Radius. When in coming AI applications on top of Anthropic, on top of ChatGPT, things are coming called agents. And what agents will be your expression of the internet. It is very unlikely in 5 years that we will be typing in web addresses, or we'll be even searching Google. For many of us in this room who are native to AI at this point, our native home base is Claude or ChatGPT. Agents will be doing this for us. And then the question is, what happens to that web-based internet or that attention-based internet if we're no longer clicking on websites or looking at ads, if everything is happening through Claude? And so our thesis is that, one, that AI agents will dominate most internet activity, and two, that we will need a native dollar on that internet in order to transact natively. And that dollar needs to be a US dollar overseen in the United States. So what does that take? Why is this so hard? So one reason that banking companies could not actually get on the open internet as it moved too slow. So banking networks move at about 4 transactions to 100 transactions a second. Visa does about 10,000 transactions a second. And the fastest cryptocurrencies move about 30,000 transactions a second. None of that is fast enough to where the AI systems are going. They need about 1 million transactions a second. Secondly, the cost is too high. So for all of us who may shop at Walmart, every loaf of bread we buy is about 3.5% more expensive than it needs to be because Walmart has a monopoly on that industry and Visa has a monopoly on the payment space. That's way too expensive for agents to start paying other agents for internet activity to replace the AdWords model. So what we're building at Radius is a system that goes 10 million transactions per dollar, so that every transaction you do on the open internet can, 1, be denominated in dollars, and 2, can happen instantly for micropayments. Our estimate is that by 2028, there's going to be about 500 billion unique transactions per day that need to be purchased between agents. And then the next question is, will those transactions happen denominated in dollars or something else? And this is the second part of the conversation that I learned in my time in government, I learned in my time outside of government, but I think is most interesting for this conversation. In 2014, a gentleman named Dr. Zhao founded what was called the Digital Currency Institute of the People's Bank of China. And what he saw that no one in our government saw was that money could move better on the open internet. He nationalized 50 of the top engineers from Alipay and WeChat Pay, which were the leading technical payment providers in the world. From that point, he built a team of about 1,000 engineers that built what's called their ECNY, or the digital yuan, but also something called mBridge. mBridge is the Chinese global financial system that is now embedded in 44 central banks around the world. Not just participating in an activity, but they brought their engineers on-prem to central banks and installed their code on-prem. This is not just North Korea. This is the European Central Bank, the Bank of International Settlements. In theory, maybe some American central banks, but that's unconfirmed. So the question is, if China's competing against AI, and they're investing thousands of dollars and millions of dollars, but also thousands of their top engineers building payment systems, what is our response? And our response on the US side is private capital, and firms like Radius, firms like Stripe, trying to build better and faster dollar systems. But what we don't have that a lot of organizations in this room have is there is no work program at the United States Treasury Department. The United States Treasury Department that leads our payment systems, as well as the Federal Reserve, have no work program. If you go to one of the government-related investors in this room and you ask, I want to build the world's best payment system to ensure American dominance, they will tell you there is no work program. There is no federal strategy towards making the dollar dominant. Just good luck out there. So for my friends in this space, if you talk to people thinking about how we strategize towards work programs, I beg you, convince the Treasury Department to build work programs so we can continue dollar dominance. For those interested in investing and looking in this space, I would love to talk to you afterwards. But importantly, I think the US dollar is quite quietly our strongest weapon. We can raise debt quite infinitely as long as we remain the world's reserve currency. But we only remain the world's reserve currency if we remain the vehicle by which trade occurs. And that only happens with technical dominance. So I encourage you to look into this. I can encourage you to talk to me after the time, and I thank you for the time.